You're listening to Spark TV, where we bring you daily interviews with real women in business at all stages. I'm your host, Ariella Lew, and I am so grateful to have you here. So good. Ariella, welcome back to Spark TV.
Do you know what? I actually looked. I'm going overseas next week. And do you know, last year I went overseas at the same time. And the Thursday before I left, I sat and did a podcast with you. So here we are, almost 12 months to the day later, doing it again.
I love it. It's a good way to send you off,
Yeah.
just, have a
do
business
this every
rant
time I
session.
travel.
Perfect. I'm in. Oh, I love it. So let's kick off firstly by telling everyone who you are and what you do.
My name is Ariella Lew. I am a pediatric nurse consultant, and I am basically a child development and parenting expert. And I run a team of support coordinators that work in the NDIS, and my business is Kids on Track Consultancy.
I love it. And as you alluded to, we did a podcast 12 months ago. And, for everyone listening, that was the regular programming. So I asked you about how you got into business, what it was like being in business, wins, challenges, advice, all of that good stuff. But this is not our regular podcast. So you are obviously a part of the Spark community, which I absolutely love. And you and I just get on like a house on fire. So we often have conversations about business. And one thing that we've noticed recently in our chats is that other people should like hear what we have to say. Other people.
Yes, seriously.
Well, come on, people. No, but it might actually, some of the conversations we've had might actually help other women in business as well. So why not condense them all into a 30-minute chat so that everyone can hear the craziness that goes on in our business brains?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, for me, being part of the Spark community has been amazing. But I think for sure, she hasn't paid me to say this, but for sure, like being able to connect with you on certain things or ideas or whatever, and to take that time out with you has been, a tremendous asset for me. That sounding board has been amazing.
Oh my God, I love that. I mean, it's interesting. I think, obviously there's different facets to Spark, but I always find the therapy, the talking to people, whether it's one-on-one or even if it's when I'm doing a podcast interview, the person on the other end's usually got something to say that I needed to hear that day, or, if it's one of the virtual coffees or wines or whatever. Sometimes just talking out loud as a business owner is so powerful because sometimes we know our own answers, but we just need to say it to someone. But sometimes it's good to get other people's perspective on, their experience and how it might apply to us.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. We had that chat about social media and how everyone has their way of doing things. And if you don't follow this way, then you're obviously not a successful growing business. And some of the one-on-one chats we've had have been how that cookie cutter approach just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think social media, obviously working in the field I work in, we talk a lot about, the perils of social media for kids and the effect it can have on this and their mental health, their social skills, all of those things that we talk about for kids, for adolescents, for the dopamine hits and all of that. And I think we get into business and we forget that actually those same risks do apply to our mental health and our dopamine hits and our chasing the next like and chasing the next trend and chasing that. And I'm not saying it doesn't have a place, don't get me wrong, but I think the idea that your sum total is what you show up as being on LinkedIn, if that's the one you're on, or stories, or how you film your reels because it's not quite on trend with the rest. And we all fall into that trap as business owners, don't we? Right? That it's about that, but actually, we all as individuals, I think it's really important to walk that path that's also what remains true to the core values of whatever your business is.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously there's the metric side of like, you know, if that's where your customers are and there's certain things that are doing really well for you, I'm not saying don't do it. But I'm also saying that, you know, I personally spent way too many holidays or day trips being like, better take a photo of that for stories. And I bet, you know, and we
Mm.
all do it as business owners, that idea of we constantly have to be showing up. But I think it's another example of not being able to push the off switch.
Totally. And I think the biggest thing for me at the moment is like comparing myself to other people as well. So
Yeah.
even in the
Yeah.
moments where I'm not showing up, like, and doing the business stuff or posting, and then in quote unquote downtime, I'm scrolling through social media, then I'm
Yes.
seeing what everyone else is accomplishing. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm behind.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, one of the things that we talked about in the first podcast that we did
Mm,
was that idea of balance and how do you, particularly in a business like mine, switch off. I've got clients
mm.
that if it was up to them would be phoning my personal mobile at all hours of the night, in the weekend, whatever. And how do you put in those boundaries? And I think
Mm.
it's exactly what you're saying. The encroaching on our downtime, our space with our families, our ability to switch off, I think is something that we just don't talk about. We talk
No.
about show up, show up, show up, and showcase and put this together and showcase.
Yeah.
First of all, while you're doing that, who's doing the work?
Yeah.
Second of all, you know, like for example, in my business, luckily I had good advisors, but when sort of the reels on Instagram, sort of, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, changed to sort of only be 90 seconds, and it was all that kind of
Mm.
singing and dancing, and that's how the reels were done. And I was like, this is not what our business is. This is now, luckily, the social media manager I was working with at the time, she's like, you don't have to do that.
Yeah. Yep.
But, and the truth is, I wouldn't have done it anyway, because I'm not super comfortable with it.
Me either.
But
I refused.
yeah, right.
Mm.
But you read any of those kind of, you know, and you're in marketing,
Yeah.
digital marketing playbooks and this and that, everything in there is going to be about you've got people short attention span, you all of which is true. I'm not knocking their expertise,
Mm.
but somewhere along the way it gets lost about being true to who you are and what your business
Yes.
started for in the first place.
Oh, totally. And I love the conversation we had the other day around, you know, if it's not actually driving clients, do you even have to do it at all?
Right. Right.
I
And
had
your advice was so good. You said you need enough that people know you're there and that you're current.
yeah.
That was pretty much what you said. And you know what? After you said that, we as a business took the decision. We've gone from posting 3 to 4 times a week to once or twice a week.
Nice.
Engagement has actually gone up, not down.
Oh my God, I love that.
We do stories when we can be bothered.
Yep.
We still try and do one a day where we can.
Yep.
And a few weeks ago, I had some stuff going on for me, and I actually jumped on a story and I was like, just so you know, over the next few weeks, I've got stuff going on in the background. I don't have time to be on here.
Yeah.
So if we're not showing up, it's not that we're not working. It's just that I don't have time to work and do this and attend to the things in my personal life. And I think there's so much out there now, particularly women in business, about wellness and self-care. And, you know, it might all be about facials and massages and the, you know, the wine, the weekly wine, all of
Yep.
that. But actually, I think that sometimes stepping back from that social media, that is so important for like mental health and self-care and the ability to take the time that you need and step away from the pressure. And interestingly, when I posted that story saying that, the amount of messages I got saying things like, great job, like, well done. Wish more people would actually be honest about it.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, it isn't just like take a quick screenshot and that's it. We all do it. I'm sure we'll take one at the end of this podcast.
Yeah,
And we'll
totally.
will. But we all do it. But, you know, like, Yesterday I had a meeting. I literally spent 10 minutes trying to trying to like pose in the glaring sun next to the
Yeah.
sign of the therapy office I was visiting. And there just comes a point that you're like, I could have
What
called someone
for?
that
What am I
time.
doing with my life?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so interesting. I think, a point you just made around, like, yes, the baths and the facials and the wine is great, but like, you can't make good decisions and you can't come up with answers and solve problems if you just have a screen with flashing lights in your face 24 hours, 7 days a week. You
mm,
actually need to rest. You need to let your brain rest.
yes, yes.
Mm. And
I
it's so,
think, one of the things which I do not practice what I preach, but I'm really considering doing it, is
mm,
actually, like, for example, I don't use Instagram in my personal life at all.
yeah.
I use it for work and that is it. I don't use Facebook in my personal life at all. I use it for work and that is it. They're
Love it.
both, though, on my personal phone. So when
Mm,
at night I'm sitting watching TV or doing whatever, watching Netflix, it's right there.
mm,
So in the morning, I'm still on there and scrolling. And at night, I'm still on there and scrolling.
yes.
Which means, as you said before, it's downtime. There's not really.
No, it's not downtime at all. Our downtime has been replaced. You might be sitting on the couch, but
Yeah.
your brain is still in
Yeah.
overload mode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such an interesting point too. So I actually had my first reel go viral. So
Well
I've
done.
been in bloody social media for a decade.
Yeah.
And I was sitting at a bar, funnily enough. I just posted a little,
You know.
I know. Posted a pic of my glass of champagne, little motivation, thing on it. 760,000 views and counting. And can I tell you something interesting? Do you think I've got any more customers? No. So, and I think fun because I just did it because I was sitting there, I was waiting for my husband's plane to land. So it wasn't a lot of time, but you think about how much time you put into this stuff. And it's like, you know what, if it's not actually driving results, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's why are you doing it? Is it actually necessary? Does it work? Should you be reducing or changing what you do? Or to our point, like going, that's enough. Now it's time to look after me as a business owner and a human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I think so. And I think, we've talked about this before as well, but I think women business owners are
Mm.
probably uniquely different in that most of us, when we start our own business or our own company, we're doing it. It's not just about filling the gap in the market, right? That is a part of it, but it's really because at the core we want to make a difference. It's something that we are passionate about. It's something that
Mm.
maybe didn't work in our own lives, or it's something that we've seen is missing through the work that we do, but in like a holistic way. And I think that sometimes, and in doing that, it means I think as female owners, we put way more of ourselves
Yeah.
into our businesses. I'm not talking about
Yes.
if you're a CEO for someone else, but if it's actually yours and you've built it from the ground up, it's you. It's literally the
Yeah.
essence of who you are. And so when you're trying to, I guess, bottleneck that down and filter that out into
Mm.
these sound bites,
Yeah.
I actually think the essence disappears.
Yeah. And it becomes, you almost grow to resent it as well,
Yes.
because what you loved doing and the impact you loved having is now becoming a chore because it's got to go
Yes.
viral, or it's got to,
Yes.
yeah, to your point, it's got to be a 7-second soundbite, you know, and I've got to, put makeup on and I've got to get the right pose, or, the sun's in the, whatever it is.
Yes.
You're right. It's like none of that stuff is the impact that you wanted to have in the world.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It reminds me, we had a conversation about doing what you love not so long ago, and how, again, what people telling you how you should run your businesses, but people talking about scaling teams and how the only way to scale is to bring in people to replace you so you can focus on growing the business. And that conversation we had always sticks with me because, I've obviously done that before and gotten to the stage where I'm like, I hate that business, and I was just
Right.
so miserable. And, it is because we as women do often start businesses because we want to have an amazing impact. We're really good at what we do. We bring a skill set. And then the world tells us, well, the only way to then grow outside of that is to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, first of all, that can be very expensive,
Yes.
as in monetarily. And you and I have talked before about bad hires and
Mm-hmm.
not great professional advice and all of that, but also I actually think it doesn't give to, again, back to that self-care, mental health, it doesn't give to actually feeling fulfilled as a human being.
Yeah.
Like in the time, yes, I do have people that do certain bits of client-facing work for me, but actually, if that was taken away from me altogether, I'd sell the business.
Yeah.
I'm not
Good
interested.
point.
What's the
Yeah.
point?
Mm.
What's the point? Like, as much as I don't want my clients calling me in the middle of the night, and they don't, most of them are very, very good and have a work phone now, so that's all better. But I do like the fact that the relationship I have with my clients, they trust me.
Yeah.
It's my values, it's my ethics. They know they can come to me, not the, oh, Ariella will see you between her 47 networking meetings, 3 podcast interviews, 2 grant applications that are like, and also for me, particularly in my business, I didn't train in business school,
Mm.
right? Like we've talked about this before as well. I didn't train to run a business. So I've picked up plenty along the way, but I didn't train in what are all these things.
Yeah.
I trained in what I trained in. I got good at what I got good at. And that's what I want to
Yeah.
do.
Totally. And it is the what's the point question because nobody woke up one morning and said, you know what I want to do? I just want to like put out fires and do my
Yes.
book reconciliation and post on Instagram. Nobody said that is how I want to spend my days. Everyone started a business to solve a problem, or
Yeah.
create
Yeah.
something, and you're right. Like if you take that away, then what does become the point, And I'm all about outsourcing. Like I love, outsource the things that I don't want to do or that I'm not very good at. But like imagine even this, right? So Spark, all I love doing is just talking to amazing women, building cool things, And I'm like, if you said to me, well, you should really be going out finding sponsors and doing this and whatever. And so you need to do less of that stuff that you love. Like I'm still the person who is on every masterclass, introducing someone. I'm on every networking event. I'm on every journaling session, whatever it is, because that's the bit that I love. Like if I just said,
Yeah.
I'll bring in somebody else, they may not actually have the business experience, but, then it would be like, what am I doing? I'm just like trying to grow a monster and not
100%.
actually getting the joy out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's too hard. Business is too hard not to find some joy in what you're doing.
Yeah. And I also think as women, right,
Mm.
whatever stage of life we're at, I think there
Mm.
are higher expectations of a juggle than there are for men. So
Yes.
whether that is splitting yourself with your personal life, with your responsibilities to parents or siblings or whatever, or your own children or whatever. But I think the world, in terms of what women are expected to deal with and juggle, the
Yeah.
juggle is higher. And so if that time you are spending in your office, you are resenting the entire time you're there,
Mm.
go do your juggling.
Yeah.
The feeling's going to be, okay, well then why am I giving up my time with my family? And why am I not, you enjoy baking. Why am I not like doing long and complicated dinners and cakes? I could do that if
Yeah.
all I'm going to be doing is what I'm not enjoying on Instagram or whatever. And I think, and that's where I think, like for women, I think, yes, the juggle is real, but I actually think sometimes some of the messaging out there is actually a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think it's just more expectation.
Oh,
and
Totally.
more juggle, and more, how do I have the time for this? And more, how do I split the money for that? And more and more and more, to the
Mm.
point that it just becomes like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, and you're so right. The messaging is, I just find, like, I know everyone's trying to sell their product or service, but the messaging that if you don't do this, you will not grow, and it
And
does,
you are not good enough.
and you're not good enough. It does make you feel like you've got to be a TikTok star, cook a
Yeah.
gourmet meal every night,
Yeah.
have all your systems and processes
Yeah.
nailed, raise millions of dollars, have a 20-person team, have a fancy office, do all the things. And if you're not doing that, then it's not, you're right, it's not good enough.
And if I hear the word workflow one more time,
Workflow. Oh my gosh. I
as
know.
in, for some things it really works, right? But
Mhm.
like, when you're doing booking systems, invoicing, all of that, great, have a workflow.
Yeah.
But when you're actually trying to deal with people, it's very hard to have a workflow.
Yeah. I have been in business for over 12 years now, and I can tell you I have the worst systems and processes you have ever seen. I've gotten really good at documenting things. If I have a VA do it, I'll do a screen record thing and I'll hand it over so I know they know what they're doing. But when it comes to me and managing my own time, I'm telling you, there is a stack of Post-it notes and a
Yeah, but
notebook.
you and me are the queens of the post-its. We know this. You and me.
If it's on a Post-it, it is guaranteed to happen.
In my eyeline, I can see about 50 with scribble.
But it's like, I don't know. I just feel like it works, firstly. You and I run successful businesses. It
Yes.
works, but can you imagine like the people who specialize in systems and processes and
Yeah,
operations?
they'd be horrified with us.
Oh, that'd be horrified. And also they're like, they sell their products as if it's like, well, if you don't do it this way, how on earth are you ever going to grow? How on earth are you ever going to achieve your dreams? We can tell you it's fine. You can be a mess. You can live in chaos. It is okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. I think, yeah.
yeah, it is interesting. I just think that, you're right. The expectations that get put on us to do it all, be it all, is just a little bit unreasonable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think, one of the things that really attracted me to Spark from the very beginning, I came in and, when we did that call a year ago, that was probably, I'd literally just joined Spark and I
Yeah.
booked to do this straight away.
Yeah.
It was one of the first things I did. And in that first conversation I had with you, you asked me about balance, work-life balance. And I just did the new Spark Founders question. And again, on there was like, how do you find the balance?
Yeah.
And I think, again, the messages are so conflicted because on the one hand, thought leaders, business leaders are saying balance. You've got to get the balance. And I guess where I sort of can at times be like, this can't be so great. There is no balance if you have to be on 24 hours a day.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think balance also makes me, even the word balance, it makes me feel like things have to be 50-50.
Yeah.
That's never the case.
Yeah.
It's
No.
pockets.
Pockets. We've talked about pockets.
Yeah, pockets are good.
And being present, being
Yeah.
that for whatever time you are doing, whatever it is you're doing, even if it is cooking dinner,
Yeah.
do you know what? You don't have to be responding to your work emails for that 20 minutes of time.
And
Or
I
whatever
love,
it might be that actually, when you're doing, I think I've talked about this with you before, like when my daughter was born, she's now 4.5. When she was born, I made a rule for myself that when I was with her, I don't answer my phone.
yes. I was
Right?
literally, you said that on the last podcast. I was literally just going to say that. I think this is brilliant.
I did. This was my thing. It's a rule for myself. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I've kept to it 100% of the time, but certainly 95% of the time, if she is with me, I don't pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And my work phone is in the other room. I don't think she even knows I have a work phone. It's in the other room. She knows I work, but it's, and interestingly, and I might have said this on the last podcast, because I can't remember how long ago it happened. I remember I was driving her back from kinder one day, and the phone rang like in my Bluetooth in the car,
Mm.
and she said, you won't answer that. And I said, no, how do you know? She goes, because you're with me and I'm the most important now.
Oh my God, I love it. That's so
And
cute.
I'm not saying I'm not a full-time mum. I don't claim that
Yeah.
I am, but it's important to me that she knows
Yeah.
when I'm there,
Mm.
I'm there.
Yes. That
And
is
I think
interesting.
that's true of everything in our lives. So when
Yeah.
you're at work, give it. You're talking about balance, right? 50-50. It doesn't need to be 50-50, but it
Yeah.
needs to be, as far as possible, 100% to the thing you are doing in the moment you're doing it. And
Yes.
I think as women, like that scatter of kind of
Yes.
like, particularly in the business I deal with, I can be juggling like 40 clients all in the space of a half an hour because
Mm.
this one's kicking off to this one needs this, right? And there's a lot of like non-contact work with the client. So there's a lot of things coming in. And I think that ability to be like, okay, this is the task I'm doing now. And until that's done,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. I find like, even as women, if you work from home, that is even more amplified because, you
Yeah.
get up to get a cup of coffee and you see the washing that's not done, or you
Yeah.
see the house is a mess, or you see, oh shit, I need to cook dinner tonight. Or like me today, I'm like, we ran out of coffee. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I can't believe it. And but I'm like, I've just had one of those weeks, and I haven't even got to the shops, and we're eating leftovers and bits and pieces, and I'm like, why is it my job to get the coffee? Like,
Yeah.
I put
Yeah.
my hand up to, be responsible for all this. But I think there is that unspoken extra workload that does happen for women, especially if you work from home.
Yeah. And I also think when you work from home, the everyone else, whoever everyone else is,
Mm,
assumes you have free time for a big part of the day. So,
yeah.
do you have time for lunch? Yeah, at my desk, I'll eat a sandwich
Mm,
because my desk is my office. No, I
yeah.
don't have time to go for a walk in the park
Yeah.
for 2 hours to do whatever in the middle of a work day. So I think that also plays into it when you work from home. And I also think for women, for many women, it is more convenient to work from home.
Absolutely.
Juggle
Yeah.
becomes easier in one way when you work from home, but I
Yeah.
don't think society always gives working women that work from home that kind of grace.
No, absolutely not. I just think it can really amplify,
Yeah.
like, I love how you call it the scatter. Like, that's how I feel right now,
Scatter.
is the scatter. Oh, I know. It's interesting. Yeah, I was just thinking as well, like, I mean, I know we're talking about expectations, work-life balance, all the things. I was just thinking about another conversation we had that I wanted to talk about while we're on this call.
Mhm.
The pricing conversation that we had.
Oh
You
yeah.
it's just another one about expectations, people telling you what you've got to do, all that kind of stuff. So I remember, what were we talking about? How should you price? Like, just a,
How should you
general
price?
question.
How
Mm,
should you price? And I asked, I've been approached to do something,
that's right.
and I posted on a business chat, not Spark, I hasten to add, not Spark. I posted on a particular business chat saying, I've been, without names or anything, I've been approached to do this. I'm wondering, how do I start considering how to price my IP?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, as in, it's mine. It would be me speaking. It was a series of videos or whatever. I think it was, yeah, it was videos. It was a series of videos, and unlike a handout where you get your IP because you've got your logos on it and you've got you this and you've got you that, and
Yep.
that's there. It was like, once someone has those videos, it's theirs. They can do what they want with it. So how do you price that? It's not like what they'll watch it once. Not like a workshop. They pay for you once, they see it once. Like, I'm not getting paid for the 10,000 times that they could watch it, or the once that they could watch it. Like, how do you?
Yeah.
And in this chat, all that kept coming back is like, well, what would you price your IP at? And I felt like saying about like, if I knew that, I wouldn't have posted. Right? Like, if I knew, and then it was all about, oh, like, you should speak to a lawyer. Okay, so now I have to decide how much I'm worth and pay however much for the privilege of hearing from a lawyer. How much?
Who has no idea who you are or what industry you're in or what your
Correct.
customers want and need.
Correct. And I think we've talked a lot about, professional services. And again, just
Mm.
like you, there are times you need to outsource. No one can do everything. No one knows everything. So I'm
Yeah.
not saying don't have professional advisors in your business. But first of all, there's something about trusting your gut. And as
Yeah.
you said to me, pricing sometimes is about what are you willing to get out of bed for?
Yeah.
Right? What are you willing to get out? And that was very good advice. And I used that. Like I actually used that in the pricing that I gave them. And
Yes, I'm so glad.
no, like I was just like, okay, if I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
what's the absolute minimum that they're going to need to pay for it? They can either pay it or not. It's their prerogative to say no. And
Yes.
that's fine. But I've got to know that, again, coming back to those values and what I set it up to be in the first place,
Yes. And you've got to feel good about actually
you've
running
got to
your
feel good
business.
about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we don't need a professional service to tell us how to do that.
No, no, not at all. I think half the time we don't need a professional service to tell us how to do anything. We just need to trust ourselves.
Yes. Yes. Or, and again, I think we touched on in the last podcast as well, and I think you recently put it back up online very recently. Find your people. Your people
Yeah.
don't have to be professional people.
Yeah.
I mean, in the last year, I've lost count of how many times I've sent you an email and be like, something's come up, can we jump online?
Yep.
Right? Like, find the people that actually you trust, that you feel are going to be honest with you,
Yeah.
paid or not, and not necessarily paid. In my
Yeah,
experience,
totally.
the better advice is the people that really know your business. So for
Yes.
me, like in my business, I have someone who, she managed my practice for many years, and then she took a step back from practice management, and she's running a different sort of company now. But she has a service called Practice Manager in my pocket, which is literally what it sounds like. So I have a problem, I email her, she knows the business because she's worked in it. Yes, she charges, but she's charging from a place of knowledge.
Yes, exactly.
So it's find your people that actually get you and understand what you're doing.
Yes.
Then they're worth all the money in the world. But you've
Yeah.
got to find them first.
Yeah, you do. And I do like your point around they're not always paid, and then
No,
they're not
definitely
all
not.
not always the person who, yeah, you're right, is trying to sell you the program and the framework. So of course they're going to tell you this is the way to solve that problem. Find the people that will, I think it's find the people that will help, get you to what will keep you happy in business,
Yes,
I know, and
yes.
I think that's just like underrated advice. What is going to keep the joy in your business? So you keep getting out of bed every morning, and you keep trying, and you keep servicing customers, and you keep trying to make it work and trying to grow it.
And you keep motivated, which is another thing we've spoken about before.
Yeah.
Because I think, coming back to where we started with that whole social media situation,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
pressure of that, if, okay, you've just had a reel go viral, but when things that you thought were like great content don't go viral,
Yeah.
or as you say, do go viral, but you don't get anything
Mm.
then monetarily coming back from it, that then makes you kind of question everything. And so that then feeds into the motivation and the self-esteem, and again that gut instinct in ourselves of like, but do I actually know what I'm talking about? Do I? Maybe I don't know. Maybe
Mm.
again, that comparing to everyone else.
Yeah. And it's like, I guarantee you, every time you go against your gut, it falls flat,
Oh,
you know?
100%.
Every time I've gone against my gut in terms of taking on a customer, hiring somebody,
Hiring.
oh my God. I knew it, and it never works out when I don't trust
Yeah,
myself. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
100%.
Wild. Oh my God, I love talking to you. We should do these like regularly.
We should do it once a month.
Yeah, that's right.
Just for
Everyone
you
can
and me. No
hear
one needs
our
to listen.
rants.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. I just find it interesting. It is it goes back to the finding your people, right? Like it is
Yeah.
what are real conversations outside of social media, outside of, paid experts, where people who are just in the trenches, running a business, what are they seeing? What conversations are they having? That's what more people should be exposed to.
I agree. And I also what you're saying, you know, I know many of us in Spark, because I've been there, somewhere in everyone's vision statement is something along the lines of wellness, right? Whether they're coaches, business coaches, all talk about balance, as you said before, and wellness.
Yeah.
Most of us, somewhere in there, it's in there.
Yeah.
But somehow we're not actually giving that to ourselves.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? We're all into, yes, we want to make, okay, I think a little bit of that also needs to come back.
I did a podcast interview earlier today, and this woman was saying when she was building the culture of her company, I think she's got a team of 8 now. She was like, some of it I just did because I wanted it for me. She's like, I wanted to take a holiday. So then, part of our culture is you don't take work on holidays. And she's like, you've got to remember, like, if you're going to define a culture for a team, why not define it for yourself first and actually say, no, I, as employee of one, I take a week off and I don't take my work with me, or I finish at midday on a Friday, or I sleep in on a Monday, or whatever it is for you. Like, create that for yourself.
100%. And it's easier said than done, but no one's going to give it back to you.
Yeah. You're the only one that can do it.
You're the only one that can do it.
Yeah.
And like, I theoretically don't work on a Friday. Never have. In theory, right? And then it became, okay, I don't see clients on a Friday, which I have stuck to. I don't do client meetings on a Friday. And then it became, okay, after 12 o'clock, I'm not actually working. The only one that's going to enforce that is me.
Exactly.
And you know the truth, the more you scale and the bigger you are, the harder it is to do that.
Yeah. Spot on. But I just love that point. Like, when everything comes back to us.
When it was just me, I could put an out of office on my phone and just say, this phone is manned till 12 p.m. on a Friday. I'll pick it up again 9 o'clock Monday morning, whatever it might have said. I'm not saying I have the discipline to do it, but I could have done it. Now I've got people working for me. Yeah. That means that's great. I've outsourced the phone. So they're answering it.
Yeah.
But if they need me, the whole point of having them is that clients don't have to wait.
Yes.
But if they then can't get hold of me till 9 o'clock on Monday morning, the clients are still waiting.
Exactly.
So again, it sort of becomes that no one gives us back the time but ourselves.
No, absolutely not. No, you've got to enforce those rules for yourself. You've got to look after yourself.
And you've got to decide what those deal breakers are and what you need.
Yes.
Because also business, for most of us who love what we do, it's a long game. We're not in this for a year 100%. And then we're out.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
It's not like one of those high pressure cooker, it's not Wall Street. Like, you're not going in and working hard and
buy, sell, go. Yeah.
Right? It's not that. That's not it. Once you set up your own business, this is 24/7, and whatever your business hours are.
Yeah.
There has to be the ability to be like, actually, the office is shut from X to Y.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, you're going to have to cope.
Absolutely. I love it. Let's wrap it there, Ariella. You are incredible, and I always love chatting with you.
Me too.
Thank you for having that conversation. I just feel like there's so many home truths in there, and I know everyone listening would have got a lot of value out of it.
Well, we got value out of it. So
we did. This is my therapy session for the day.
That's what matters. It's always a pleasure.
That wraps another episode of Spark TV. Shout out to Spark TV sponsor IP Australia for their amazing support of the Spark podcast and women in business. And if no one tells you today, you've got this.